For those of you who are not familiar with Client Success, or you're just getting familiar with Client Success, we are a customer success management platform and more. Historically, we have been a solo platform, really helping customers, what we said, manage from new to renew, so that entire post-initial sales life cycle. But we are so much more than that. Over the past several months, if you've been following our journey, we've had a series of acquisitions, including one of my personal favorites, Baton. If you're not familiar with Baton, it is an onboarding solution, but so much more. I do encourage you, if you are somebody who leads onboarding, whether it's in your customer success function, you're part of an implementation team, take a peek at it. You will not be disappointed. We have been moving folks over to our solution for the past several months now, and the feedback is fantastic. So if you're interested in learning more about Baton, you can go ahead and scan that QR code. It will bring you to some more information and get a demo scheduled. So if you are interested, I definitely recommend you go check it out. Now, one more thing, because I would be remiss if I did not talk about this, but if you are not familiar with our CS100 Summit, now this event is a community event, okay? This is not a client success customer event. So you do not need to be a client success customer to take advantage of this event. Now, it is called CS100. If you are not familiar, it is limited to 100. Okay, that is why it is called CS100. It is intended and designed intentionally to be a very interactive, immersive experience where you are building real relationships and learning amongst your peers. Now, the best way I can describe this, it's like customer success camp. If you have never been to the mountains at the Sundance Resort in Utah, I promise you these pictures do not even do it justice. It is fantastic. So now you take all the beauty that is the mountains in Utah and you couple that with some of the best and brightest minds in customer success, and you get an amazing experience. So if you're not doing anything, September 22nd, 23rd, 24th, that is also my birthday, the 23rd, come celebrate my birthday with me on the mountains in Utah with 100 of my closest customer success leadership friends, and let's have a fantastic time. So this is a little bit about it. Scan the QR code. It'll bring you to our website to check it out, learn more. I will tell you, we do cap it. So if you are a CS leader and you do intend to join us, just know as soon as tickets are sold out, they are sold out. There is not extra room. So this is going to be capped. We already have a bunch of people who have registered. Go check out the speaker lineup, go see who's there. And then obviously if you're intending to go, we are still out. I think yesterday may have ended early bird special, but I don't know if it's changed on the website. So you might actually have an opportunity to take advantage of one more day of the early bird special, but go ahead and get your tickets booked. Would love to have you all come. Now, without further ado, and why you're all here today is to have a conversation with my dear friend, Brandi. And so today we're going to talk about change champions, empowering customer success teams to lead the change. Now, I got to tell you how this actually came to be. For anybody who follows me on LinkedIn, you know I'm pretty active there and I love to post. And so Brandi actually had some great thoughts and feedback about the wonderful work that she is doing at FMX. And once she commented and told me a little bit about what she was doing over there, I had to have her come and share that with our community because I thought it was really innovative and really different. And we know that change doesn't happen on its own. We cannot wish for change to happen. It really needs to be intentional. And so Brandi's going to share with you all today a lot of the great work that she's doing, hopefully give you guys some guidance on how you can embrace a similar strategy in your organizations to drive change. So Brandi, without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to you. I'm going to stop sharing, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, Kristi. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can dive right in with the time we have today.
Excellent. I'm going to be back, Brandi. So you go, you take it away. If anyone needs me, I'll be in the chat.
Wonderful. Well, everyone, I'm so excited to be here to talk to you today about change management and how we've made it a strategic edge for us here at FMX. And what I hope to leave you with today is just maybe how you can apply change management into your daily customer success practices so that your teams can help lead the charge. So first, just want to tell you a little bit about myself, how I came to be in customer success. So I'm the Chief Customer Officer at FMX, as Kristi shared. I will be celebrating my 10-year anniversary at FMX this coming August. I actually joined the company as employee number 10, so it was very much a startup when I came on board. I was the first customer success employee, so at that point, I was the support agent, the implementation specialist. I was responsible for the ongoing account management and managing renewals at that time. If you've ever worked in a startup environment, you know it's a grind. I'm pretty sure I was also the office manager, the snack order, the check scanner. So if you've been there, you know what it's like. Definitely have learned a lot along the way. So as the first customer success employee, there was a lot of room to grow what the customer success team was going to be over time. So we went from a state of CS does everything to now a 3-department, multi-sub-department customer success team who oversees implementation, retention, renewals, support services. So that is everything that really ranges from answering help desk tickets, phone calls, data migration, and integration services for our customers. We also owned upsell and expansion up until actually January of this year. We made a strategic decision to move the upsell and expansion team to the sales org. I'm sure that's a whole other webinar topic we could discuss another day in and of itself. So a little bit about FMX as a market leader. So we were founded in 2012, and since I joined the company in 2015, I've seen the company grow from what was me as the 10th employee to 160 FMX teammates. We've gone from the 200 customers to over 2,400 customers. I actually believe I was here about a month and we were celebrating the 200th customer, because in a startup, that is a huge milestone. And strive for 35% year-over-year growth, so growing as fast as we can, which plays into some of the local accolades that our company has received. So we've been a member of the fastest 50 growing companies in Columbus for the last several years. And we've also been in the Columbus Business First as a best place to work. Really proud to share that we were actually voted the #1 company last fall. And we have several other national recognitions as well. So here at FMX, what is it that we do? Well, we're an all-in-one facilities, asset, and operations management solution. So essentially, we strive to help companies streamline their operations into one system, reduce downtime, make data-driven decisions with the data they have. So think of any like maintenance requests, help desk tickets, preventive plan maintenance. That is what we help our customers do. And our niche market is in the K-12 industry, higher ed, and state and local governments. So you could really think of anybody that has a facility to manage. It could be in the office you're working in today, as well as maybe some fun ideas like a resort, a zoo, a stadium, or arena. If you have a facility to manage, we can help you. And since I've started at FMX implementing customers, they come to our software in several different ways, but the two most common are either coming from no system at all, it is pen and paper, just walking over to somebody's desk, or they're migrating from another system. And whether they are coming from nothing or coming from something, there is still a change that needs to take place in getting buy-in for that change. And that is what I want to talk to you about today, because change is hard. And I want to talk about how, again, we've made that a strategic edge at FMX to have dedicated team members that help our customers manage that change, really at the end of the sales process, through implementation, and throughout the lifetime of their account. But first, I want to go ahead and set the stage and define what is change management. I'm sure we've all heard this. We've all been part of a change in our own organizations. Maybe you've implemented a software or gone through a change of policy. But change management is really helping teams transition from a current state to a future desired state. And it's everything that takes place in between both of those. So it's the planning, it's the communicating, the training and adoption, and supporting people through what we can really define as that messy middle. Again, I can't emphasize enough just admitting that change is hard. Humans, we are all creatures of habit. So having someone help through that messy middle is really critical. And why does change matter? Well, you can't just announce a new way of doing something and expect everybody to just raise their fist and say, I'm in. They really have to understand the why behind the change. What is this? Why is this important? What is in it for me? And then you really have to get to the adoption and the sticky part so that the change will stick and you can see a return on investment for the change that you're making. And again, I'm excited to share with you today what we have done here at FMX to really infuse this into our implementation process and lifetime customer journey. But I can't move on and talk about some of the stories I have to share without acknowledging that without our founder and CEO, who truly puts customer success at the forefront of the business. So this is a quote that we love to share when we are at trade shows or at other conferences with our prospects and customers, that at FMX, customer success isn't just a department, it's really the entire mindset forefront of our company. So whether you are on the sales team, field marketing, if you're developing a new product, if you're upselling or expanding them, it's always keeping the customer's best interest in mind. And I think it really plays into change management and what we're trying to do there as well. And I also have a fantastic customer success team that I feel very honored and privileged to work with as well, that make all of this possible. So when did we have our aha moment? I mean, change, it's been part of it forever, but when did we decide that we really needed to dedicate team members or a full process to this? Well, I want to take us back to about 2022. Our senior director was looking into ways to continuously improve our customer success team. We were seeking professional development opportunities, just ways to really level up our game and how we work with customers. Our team had gone through several transitions from, again, managing all of those hats to doing implementation and retention all in one. We broke out those roles. What can we do next? And when we really evaluated what the responsibilities were across these different customer success roles, it seemed like there was a light bulb of, oh, project management. That's exactly what we do for our customers throughout this. So our senior director started looking into project management certifications. I'm sure, as you know, there are several of those out there on the web. And I'm not saying that that's not the right direction to go. But what happened to us during this exploration was simultaneously, we had a large customer who started submitting a lot of product feature requests. This wasn't the first time we've received those, and I'm sure a lot of you on the call today are not stranger to feature requests. But it was a large customer. We were going to put a lot more time, headspace into understanding what were their needs, what were the gaps and concerns that they were identifying, and what were we going to do about it. So we would have several meetings with the customer. We would bring in our own engineers and product team to talk about it. We would meet directly with the customer. We would meet behind the scenes. And the more we talked about it, whether it was some banner message that they wanted to be able to post in their software instance, or they wanted a new button, at the end of the day, it was always going to take some form of training or enforcement of a new system in order for it to work the way that they had wanted it to work. And what we identified is that it was a fear of letting go of their old system and their old ways to adapt to something new, to the new software. So while we considered certifying our team in project management, it was through that ongoing work with this large customer and also looking back at the several product feature requests we received from old customers when we realized that what we needed at that time was change management and a process and or people dedicated to helping our customers manage the change. So with this revelation, we really got to work and we started to figure out what were we going to need to do in order to have a process or person dedicated to this. And as we strategized, we realized that change was a lot like doing a puzzle. So if you've ever done a puzzle, if the first thing you do is drop out all the pieces, it just looks like chaos. And that is how change can feel, I mean, to us, but we know that that is also how it feels to our customers who are getting involved in implementing a new software, dedicating their time and energy into something new. And depending on who you are as part of that project, you might not see the end in mind or that big picture, the picture on the box. So it's trying to figure out how are all of these little pieces going to come together and make one final end piece. But then again, you see that picture on the box, you see the vision, and you're like, okay, that's it. That's what we need to do with our customers. We need to help them see that big picture of the puzzle, and we need to help them navigate the middle part of putting it together. So throughout this, the questions that we wanted to ask ourselves and answer is, how can we help our customers start sorting the pieces of the change? And how do we help them snap those pieces together so that they can make this change happen. Well, we definitely have to hold up that big picture of that puzzle of what that end in mind is. Otherwise, if they're just going to try snapping pieces together, they don't know where they go, they're going to get really frustrated. But if we can hold up that picture, keep reminding them of the end in mind, they can start snapping them together. Even if the progress is slow, it's reminding them that they're making progress. We needed to be able to help them understand why all the pieces go where they go, how they're going to go, and why they're all an important part of the change. Because everyone on their team, it had to be their stakeholders, their project leads, but even the end users, you can't leave out the end users that were going to be using this. We're all going to play a critical role in making this change happen and completing the picture. So this is when our mantra became change management can't just be a side conversation, but it has to truly be a pillar of success for us and for our customers in order to make this happen. And we knew that if we could get this right, it was going to make our customers very successful. So here's what we did. We built a job description for someone that we now call a customer engagement manager. And their main role in this entire process was going to be to help drive the change for the business, help them understand why it was important, holding up that puzzle, the final puzzle picture, and helping them get there. But what was even more critical and worked out really well for us is that we had a former customer who had already implemented FMX at their organization, had really positive outcomes, and he really drove a lot of change. He actually shares some really powerful stories with our customers about how his first training with his team, he thought he'd get through training on the whole software, it would be easy peasy, and really they made it to slide 4 where you copy and paste. So, I mean, he really has some impactful stories to share. And it just happened that it was the right place, the right time. We brought him on board to lead the charge. And when we got him in, we thought, this is it. We have it figured out. There is no way we're going to be behind the curve anymore. And boy, were we wrong. And I think we all can admit we learn a lot from our failures, probably more than our successes, because we had our wake-up call. It was about within a month of our customer engagement manager starting. So he was still ramping. He was still building up the process that we were going to put in place. But we had another large customer churn completely out of left field. Our team had just gone on site with them. They had just trained the customer. We wine and dined who their purchaser decision maker. We thought we had that one in the bag for launch, but right as they were coming up on launch, our team had come back. They were kind of finalizing what this rollout was going to be. Those product features and product gaps came up again. And because they did not have a strong executive sponsor present that was willing to enforce the change with his team, and admittedly so, we didn't have a strong sponsor on our team. This was a big learning lesson. I mean, admittedly for me to be closer to this and their sponsor and help managing and pushing the change as well, that we lost them. It really didn't matter how much training or support we could give, because there wasn't a strong leader and sponsor willing to enforce that change through the organization. We weren't able to renew that account and keep them on board and get them to launch. And what we did was we really put numbers behind that as well, so that we could use this as a learning lesson and what we were going to do moving forward immediately. So you have to think this was a large organization. They had just put several hours of their own and time. I think it was 9 months of evaluating a new software system, another 6 months of implementation with us, having us go on site with them, probably easily over $1 million in time and money spent to only end up not investing in the change. So we knew this really just proved our point that what we were doing was right. We just hadn't done it fast enough. So we institutionalized a change management program immediately. And this came in really 3 waves of what we do here. So the first is pre-kickoff content. So we structured first a pre-kickoff meeting before we can even get started and diving into the software. It was going to be setting the stage for change management, and that A great software won't matter if people don't want to use it. So there's a full pre-kickoff meeting that must take place before the kickoff starts. Secondly, glossaries and presentations. So we had to get everybody on board. This isn't just a customer success effort that takes place. This has to be institutionalized across the whole organization. Our sales team needs to be able to talk to prospects about how a big part of implementation is literally just the push to change and overcoming that hurdle. I was actually just on a call with a customer earlier who talked about how their sales process was just very lengthy because the first time we ever went and talked to them about switching softwares, it was the first response was, well, oh my gosh, we have to change. It's going to be so hard. And she said, and they were like, well, what if it doesn't work? And she said, but what if it does? So really, it's just getting people on board across the organization to talk the same talk. We do several presentations. We send our customer engagement manager out to trade shows, other leadership conferences with prospects and customers to only speak about change. I mean, FMX, we believe our software is important and can make such a valuable impact for people, but it really, a perfect technical solution is just not enough to make a project successful. And then our customer engagement manager, as I mentioned, supports across all departments and not just across all departments. While enterprise was and is the initial focus for our company when it comes to change management, just because that's where we see the most complex organizations, complex workflows. He can be used across any department or customer. And an example I have of that is actually just this past spring, we had a mid-market account come up to their launch, and this is right when you see it, the cold feet, not feeling like they had enough training and support. We got together with the customer to understand what's going on. We really uncovered that it was the hesitancy to change and feeling like maybe they hadn't had enough training. So instead of trying to do more Zoom trainings, which might have worked, we sent our customer engagement manager and the CSM on site for 2 full days of training, talking to them about the change, what would be different, helping them manage that change. Face to face, I mean, it really changes the game if you can get out and go face to face with your customers, because you can work through some of their issues together and show them that the change isn't so hard and that on the other side, something might be easier or give you better data. And the testimonial at the end when our team came back from that training is the customer ended up launching, they're happy, and verbatim said it was the best training they've had from a vendor. So really just diving in there with customers. They don't, like I said, for your organization, it might be different. We focus mostly on enterprise. However, it's not just limited to enterprise customers because everybody struggles with change. So I want to talk about the change management practices we use now, and we talk about these in that pre-kickoff meeting that we have with customers. However, this is something that we've institutionalized through the whole process of the customer journey to talk about often. So first is finding the executive sponsor early. This is another topic I'm extremely passionate about. I could talk to it a whole nother webinar probably just on executive sponsorship, because their involvement can truly make or break an implementation. And I've seen it happen both ways, unfortunately. And I think that if you identify the executive sponsor in the pre-kickoff meeting or kickoff meeting, it truly might be too late. I think the executive sponsor needs to be identified during the sales process, even if they're hidden. Sometimes I know they're not always involved, or who's involved in sales may not be the ones that are doing the work in customer success. However, I can't emphasize enough the importance of a good executive sponsor. I actually wrote a LinkedIn post a few weeks back about executive sponsorship, and one that I have had the pleasure of working with. His name is Dr. Jeff Wilson. And I had the opportunity to meet him long before he and his organization purchased FMX at a face-to-face trade show. And it was his opportunity to share with me some of the, I guess it was my opportunity to learn from him, the pains that their organization were facing any of the personalities or people that we were going to be working with throughout the rest of the sales process, but also should they choose to move forward during the implementation process. And it was a chance for me to share with him what implementation would look like, what are some of the things they may come up against as it pertains to data migration, coming on site to train their team, etc. But even more than just this business aspect, he and I had a chance just to get to know each other as people. And we in customer success, I mean, we are relationship driven, and that is what we do. We build relationships with our customers. And when you build that relationship, you build trust. And that is exactly what he and I had the opportunity to do because I was introduced to him so early. So then when they moved forward and purchased FMX, he was involved on every implementation meeting, or at least almost all of them. He's very director of operations, very busy guy, but he and I stayed in constant contact, just kind of doing pulse checks on how things were going. And I have to tell you, it actually wasn't all smooth sailing. Again, just as it does with customers, we came up against some change management issues. We would hear about product and product things in our product that didn't do what their previous software did. And he and I would have some tough face-to-face, either face-to-face phone call conversations to say, hey, I understand that you need our software to do XYZ like your previous software did, but we are going to deliver you the same result, the same desired outcome. It just has to be done a little bit differently. And I need your help to manage this in your organization because we, as the exec sponsors on our side, can only take it so far. You know, we're not the leadership and enforcement there, but we can help them manage the change and we can show them the workarounds and alternative solutions and why ours might be easier, deliver the same desired outcomes as a previous system. But that is why having such a strong exec sponsor is important. And I mentioned the churn, our wake up call that we had, and there was a lack of executive sponsorship on both sides, theirs and ours. But that is an example of one where it wasn't there and we couldn't have that hard product conversation. And essentially they were unable to use all that time and money that they invested in evaluating to launch the software. They had to start all over again. So if there is one thing you take from today, please make it finding an exec sponsor early. It really has been a pivotal change for us, and I'm going to have some of the numbers to show it as well. The second change management practice we use is being a steward of change. I truly believe it is our responsibility in customer success, whether you are the executive sponsor, you are the implementation specialist, you are the customer success manager, even the product person that gets brought in to have the conversation. We are responsible for being a steward of change. There's a quote that we use in that pre-kickoff meeting, and we will bring it up several times throughout the implementation or post-implementation of don't protect an imperfect process when there might be a better, more efficient way. And I believe it is our job in customer success to share that quote and enforce that quote. I'm sure you can all relate to if a customer asks if your software can do something and you have to say, well, the answer to can we do this and should we do this are different. Can we do it? And maybe we could probably make that work with a couple tweaks to the system, but should we do this? No, and I'm going to explain to you why we shouldn't do that. And I think if we say yes too often to both of those, we're letting them go back to their old way of doing things and we're not really stewarding that change for them. So one thing I'll try to do in an upfront contract is I'm developing the executive sponsor relationship, but I also encourage my customer success team to do it as well, is to ask them. There might be times when you're going to ask if our software can do something, and I'll have to say no. Are you okay with that? Get their verbal commitment that you can tell them no, and it really helps open up that door. It truly builds rapport too. Share with them that you have their best interests in mind. You want them to be successful. That's our job. We want them to be successful with our software. So just getting their buy-in that you can be their steward of change is really pivotal to helping manage the change with our customers. Third, ask upfront and often, how does your organization handle change? This is the first question we ask in the pre-kickoff meeting with customers. And I believe our customer engagement manager has also asked this question during the sales process. And it helps get that mindset right out of the gate. And truthfully, it helps build rapport right away. Because most people chuckle and they're like, we hate change, or we're not very good at handling change. So being able to ask it, getting them to admit that up front, it's your opportunity to step in and say, protect their okayness and say, hey, this is really common. Our organization isn't good at it either, or we struggle with it, but we're here to help you manage the change. We're going to talk about it today because we know that it could be a messy ride, but we're going to help get buy-in from your whole company. And I don't think that you should just ask this at the pre-kickoff meeting. It's something you can ask in the middle of implementation. How is your organization handling the change? You can ask it 60 days post-launch. Is your organization handling the change? Sometimes, you go back to those questions I mentioned just a second ago. Can we do this? Should we do this? And no matter how hard you try to put your foot down on should we do this, they'll still say, well, you said that we could, so let's try it. But 60 days later, you ask that question again of how's your organization handling change? And they're like, well, this actually is a lot harder. When you told us that maybe we shouldn't do this, let's revert back. It's a really great time to kind of walk back into that conversation and say, okay, yes, let's go and do it the way that we're doing it in this software now, and let's give it a try. I think that you're going to find on the other side that once you get through the hurdle of change, that it is easier to use. Fourth here, teach the why. And the reason I bring this up is because I'm actually here teaching you a little bit about the why today, why it matters. And in those initial touch points with customers, we teach them why change management matters, why they have to be bought into the fact that this isn't just about a software implementation. This is about getting the buy-in from your team to change from one system to another. So we teach them why change management is important, and then we teach them to teach their team why they're changing. So often this piece isn't taught because it's like, oh, we're the leaders of this project. We just need this in place, and we're going to go tell people that they just need to do it this way now. Well, if you don't teach your team the why and why this is important, if you don't show them that picture on the puzzle box and where you're trying to get to, they're going to draw their own conclusions and they're going to get frustrated. So one of our evangelists he is actually also a former FMX customer. We'll share this story of how he would get all the data in our system. He would show the guys, try to get their adoption and buy-in, and it was hard for them because they had drawn the conclusion that the reason they were using this new software was so that they could micromanage them and know what they're doing and where they're at every day, what work orders are they working and completing. And while sure, FMX could be used to do that, he ended up sharing with his team that the reason he wanted this software and wanted the reports from the software is because he sees what they do every day. But people that are members of the school board or the state and local government, or however people are using our software, and maybe yours too, they don't see the nitty-gritty. And he wants to be able to show everybody else what they're doing so he can advocate for more people or more budget or more of something else and get them help. So at that point, his team was able to understand the what's in it for me. They had purpose and clarity on why the change was happening. And then he got greater adoption, greater buy-in for the software. And later on was able to secure more money and to secure more headcount for his team to get them some help that they needed. So I have to emphasize that we teach the why change management is important so that our customers will teach their organizations why the software change is important. And lastly, calling out the pitfalls early. This is a great time to uncover organizational problems and make changes to processes. And we have to teach our customers that, and they also have to teach their organizations that. During a period of change, there's always a little loss of productivity, and it's okay. but they have to tell their organizations the why behind it, to expect it, and that they're all aligned on this change and that they will get through it. And it might be a great time to assess internal processes and make changes from there. So call out the pitfalls early, be proactive. It's better to do it now than fix it mid rollout later when you're having to make changes again, try to get everybody back on board. So we put all of this in place. We hired headcount. We spent our own time and budget on it. So what have the results been for us? Well, I'm excited to share those with you because we have really seen it in the numbers. We've seen a 54-day faster time to value for our customers who had a strong executive sponsor managing change than those who don't. So just a little insight into our implementation process at FMX. We have a kind of rough 90-day guidepost for our enterprise customer base, give or take, a few days on that. So for those who had a strong executive sponsor, we saw a 90-day average time to value. For those who did not have a strong executive sponsor, it was 147 days. So, we're almost looking at a 2-month difference because since we've implemented a change management program, identifying strong executive sponsors for these people to receive value from their investment. So again, what's in it for them? It's just, if with this faster time to value, they're able to receive more value from their investment earlier on. Our CS team is able to take our resources and reallocate them to other customers who are coming on board. We get testimonials from these customers sooner. They are likely to upsell and expand sooner, because a true indicator of an upsell or expansion for us are just customers who are getting the value out of the software they already purchased. Secondly, we've seen an 84% reduction in churned revenue for enterprise customers since the addition of a change management program. I want to pride ourselves. We have really low churn rates. We are really proud of our renewals and retention at FMX, but this was still an outstanding metric for us to see. That year, I told you this started 2022, 2023, when that large customer came in and churned. They unfortunately weren't the only customer that we saw churn. There were others sprinkled in there as well. They just happened to be the most pivotal story, the one that made us act the quickest. So we've seen an 84% reduction in this area, which for us obviously goes to show greater retention rates, greater renewal rates. We have more enterprise customers that we're able to upsell and expand to and get testimonials from. So as I wrap up those results here, I just want to leave you with some final thoughts and key takeaways before we move into some of the questions. But first here is just admitting that change is hard. Humans are creatures of habit. We really have to get our mindset right and help our customers go from their current state to their future state and help them navigate that messy middle. And if we can do that, then customer success is really more than support. It becomes transformational leadership. We are truly trusted advisors to these people, and we are helping them lead their organization through something that to us may not feel like a big change, but to them is a whole change in how they work. And if you can do this right, then change management can become a strategic differentiator for your company, and you can see the results on the bottom line like we have as it comes to time to value and a reduction in churn. And with that, Kristi, I'll invite you back on.
I was too busy taking notes. That was fantastic, Brandi. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
Do you want to stop sharing this, and then we'll get ready for some Q&A. So for everyone who's still on, thank you guys for sticking with us. Hopefully you guys found value in this presentation. I know I definitely did. I'm over here like taking notes in my notebook. What I'd like to do is just open up to Q&A. So what I'm going to ask is for anybody who's got any questions on any of the content that we covered, or questions that you have about driving change with your customers or in your organizations, drop them in the Q&A little bubble on the Zoom toolbar. We've got a couple questions in there now, so we'll get to that and we'll answer as many as we can with the time we have remaining. But I just want to encourage you all to hop over there, and now would be a great time for you to go and ask any questions. Also, we will use the upvoting feature in there as well. So if there's a question that's in there that you definitely want us to make time for, go ahead and go and upvote that. And that way we'll make sure to prioritize it and get to as many as possible. So I'm just gonna swap that. Okay, so Brandi, first question. Have you ever run into issues with having both a kickoff and pre-kickoff call? Do clients say it seems duplicative? How do you frame this additional call to clients, or does the sales team review that during the sales process?
Great question. We've definitely heard it seems like a duplicate call, but our sales team helps frame this up for us in the beginning, that the pre-kickoff, we design it all around change management, but we also describe it as the handoff meeting, excuse me, from our sales team to our customer success team. So we're able to describe it as a session of, hey, this is to introduce you to your customer success contacts. We're going to confirm everything you purchased, what your desired outcomes, and then you're going to move into the presentation that we'll do before the kickoff meeting. I'm certain there's been times we've also paired the pre-kickoff with the kickoff with like that response, are people that are just, they're ready to get going. They have that momentum, but we really try to separate them as much as we can, just so we can emphasize the importance of change management. We're having a whole session basically dedicated to this, but our sales team really helps set the stage for us.
It's great to have that collaboration with them to help you guys set the stage, because so much of the expectation setting happens in the sales process. So if you're able to get ahead of that, I'm sure it reduces a lot of friction when those meetings come up.
Absolutely.
Very good. So next question we have is, what would be the difference between the exec sponsor and an implementation specialist?
Great question. I guess when I referred to implementation specialists, we call our implementation team customer success managers. So those are the people in like the day-to-day on our side doing the implementation. I generally serve as an exec sponsor, one of our directors on FMX side, but for our customers, their implementation specialist is generally somebody we call a change agent. And Kristi, I don't know if I would be happy to send some of the resources to you as well, if you would want to share any of the visuals with the folks on the call today.
Oh, we'd love to do that. We'll make it available with the recordings. That would be fantastic.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, would be happy to do that. So the change agent is usually the one, I'm actually going to reference my screen over here, who helps implement the change. They plan and execute the implementation plan, and they understand stakeholder needs and identify how to prepare. So the change agent is essentially the one managing the implementation project. The exec sponsor is somebody who really has just like the authority to say, yes, we are, no, we're not going to do this. Does that help?
I think it was good. So Nicole had a follow-up, and so I think that you answered this, Brandi, but I just want to make sure that we're definitely answering this one as well. So in the same vein, are you referring to top decision maker as exec sponsors, and can you better explain that role?
Yeah, so the decision makers can be exec sponsors, but they don't have to. It depends what part of the process we're talking about. In the sales process, sometimes your decision maker is not the same exec sponsor. They might be the same, but they might be different. So that's one of the reasons we have this pre-kickoff call. And I should have shared this, is we go in and identify, we make them tell us who the exec sponsor is, because we might say, hey, like, we know previously it was, Billy Bob over here, but who is it here now? And sometimes it's the same and sometimes it's different. But the exec sponsor on the customer side should be somebody that has the authority to enforce the change all of the way down.
Very good. Okay, our next question here. If you have time, would love some quick tips or best practices on finding and engaging an exec sponsor, especially if one wasn't identified early on or left the organization, which we see all the time.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's the top reason for churn, is loss of a key champion. At least that's what we see here in our organization. But if it's not identified early, we do it in this pre-kickoff meeting by asking them to share with us who their executive sponsor is. And if they leave the organization later, trying to use the other people we identify. So whether it's the change agent, other stakeholders, or other champion and advocates that they share with us in the pre-kickoff, if they leave, going to those people and just saying, hey, we have a great relationship with you. Are one of you going to take over the role of as the executive sponsor, or will it be somebody else in the organization? Sometimes it really is just using, actually just found out about one today from somebody else. And I'm trying to use that example of saying, fortunately, I was like already speaking with an admin assistant. She's getting me on the phone with somebody else. Sometimes it's being a little scrappy, right? And like just going and figuring out who the next contact is going to be.
All right, very good. All right, just a friendly reminder for everyone, we still have some time left, so please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A, and then please review anything and upvote the ones that you want to make sure that we get time to. So next question is, what are the 3 subsections of the CS department that FMX currently has?
So we oversee the implementation, and that also includes any kind of upsell, expansion, implementation. We oversee we call them customer outcome managers, since our implementation team are customer success managers, and they are the ones who manage a book of business. They are the ones who do quarterly business reviews with customers. They do identify upsell opportunities and then get the account managers involved. And then we also manage all tech support, which is either product support, which emails, phone calls, chatbots, as well as our services team, who help do a lot of the behind the scenes data migration, support services like integration setup for customers. A lot of times those will actually reside on professional services team, but we oversee, customer success oversees that at FMX.
Very good. All right, next question we've got. Any tips on if you lose an exec sponsor on your account, leaves business, moves departments, redundancies? So I guess you kind of talked on this. Is there anything else you want to add there?
You know, I think it's just asking the question. I actually think Sarah Chips might have chimed it in there too. It's like, if somebody were to leave your organization, who else here can help enforce this change? Get that answer from your exec sponsor, like in the beginning. I believe I saw somewhere, there's also like the 2x2 rule, right? Like you can try to have 2 contacts at each level so that there's always somebody else that you can go to. We try to say the exec sponsor can only be 1 person, because otherwise then you start getting, even 2 can be too many chefs in the kitchen sometimes, right? And they all want to make decisions, or they're a bottleneck for decision making. So just asking early on, who else can help manage this change if you're not here?
All right, next question. How do you manage change fatigue, especially if the organization is undergoing multiple transitions at once?
Wow, that's a great question. Change fatigue is certainly a thing. I think we've all probably been through that as well. So some of my recommendations on managing change fatigue are: 1, I think you have to help the customer celebrate their wins. You know, you can be really tired from change. You can feel like maybe there's no hope at the end, or that things are slow, not making progress. Help show customers that they have made progress and that they have hit milestones that they have set up, so that they continue to be motivated. We have even seen some of our organizations, they had teammates that were very fearful. They would never buy into the change. They were always just going to go back to the pen and paper way of doing things. And they would incentivize with either like FMX mugs or FMX like little swag just to get them to do it. And those incentives really worked, because at this one particular customer, I believe they were in Illinois, the number 1 person they thought wouldn't buy in was already in there submitting work orders, closing out work orders. And it's really funny how like little things like swag and just celebrating them and encouraging them can go a long way when it comes to change fatigue. Secondly, what we'll do with customers, whether it's the change to our software, maybe we happen to know and have insight that they're doing several implementations at one time of softwares, is ask them to maybe do a more phased approach to their implementation. What are your biggest priorities, your highest pain points right now? And let's get that started. Get your team using it, get it comfortable. And when you're ready to add in the second piece, then we can do that. So they don't have to manage so much change at once, but we're still addressing the high priorities and acting on that momentum to make sure that they're launched and not just sitting in a limbo stage with their software.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, next, we still have time, guys. So I'm getting through all these questions. This is great. Okay. Have you had experience launching an internal exec sponsor program with your C-levels? My last CEO wanted me to roll that out, and I really struggled to get buy-in from the execs and coordinate collaboration. Outside of the CCO and CEO, obviously, who are enthusiastic about it, but they were basically the only ones.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I have another question for that, like internal exec program. I mean, here it's still pretty like, I don't want to say limited, but I generally serve as the exec sponsor. Occasionally our CEO will. I'm just curious back to, I believe it was Brandi Howe that asked the question, like what kind of internal exec sponsorship program were you trying to launch? And then perhaps I could expand.
So Brandi, if you're still with us and you want to add more context either in the Q&A or in the chat. Okay, he really wanted leadership to own the ultimate relationship. So I guess it's internal exec sponsor program.
Okay. We,
What was
you
the
know, we're
answer?
really fortunate to have a CEO that really believes in customer success. I mean, you mentioned the CEO being amped up about it, but I really have yet to, everybody at FMX here is really amped up about customers and really bought into the program. Everybody's like all hands on deck when it comes to our customers. So I would have to give that one a little bit more thought. I'm sorry, I don't have a great answer for that one.
It's okay. All right, let's go to the next one. So this is our last question, guys. So if there's anything else you guys want answered, please feel free to drop it over here in the Q&A. Okay, you mentioned that your customer engagement manager slash change agent could be called for internal projects. I'm curious how that's been adopted in any success stories.
Yeah, so our customer engagement manager has been called, I mean, for several projects across the organization. So whether it's in the sales org with prospects trying to come through, also with customers that aren't enterprise, I'm trying to think of a specific success story because I know I shared the one where we went on site and trained a customer who was not ready to launch. Man, he's just been so successful. We had him go to a leadership conference back in Princeton last May with several customers who he co-presented with a customer who just really helped complement his presentation on change management. Because again, so many people overlook that how important change is. And by having a co-presentation with another customer to really reinforce it, it's been a really well-received presentation. I've actually talked to several customers lately, maybe just as preparing for this, who keep talking about change. And I know he has worked with so many people and so many of these customers who have mentioned it. And I think what has happened is by him being involved in all these sales pursuits and implementation pursuits, where we have customers talking about it more and not fearing it as much. And perhaps that's the overall success of it. People are now realizing like, yeah, change is a big part of this. It's not just about making a perfect technical solution.
Well, very good, Brandi. We have made it to the end of our questions. And we're almost at time. So I'm going to actually say, do not submit any more questions if you guys have them. I will direct you to go follow up with Brandi directly. Brandi, where can anyone reach you if they want to have any follow-up conversations or have questions that they didn't get answered today or didn't ask?
Yeah, well, you can certainly find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to chat there. My email is brandi.templeton@gofmx.com. I'm always happy to pick up a chat via email as well. But Kristi, thank you again so much for having me. I hope people found value out of the conversation today.
Absolutely. I think you shared so many great insights. Change is hard, but change is important. And so I'm glad that we're having conversations around it. I do think that this is the differentiation that we're all seeking because so many people are going through the motions of designing a customer journey that just isn't getting it done, right? They still got
Mhm.
customers struggling. And I'm a big advocate of this. I think this is how we initially started our dialogue on LinkedIn was around this very topic and the
Mhm.
importance of it. So I'm glad to see that we are so aligned. I don't have the infrastructure that you do. I don't have the team size just yet, but I love what you're building over there. And obviously it's working. Your stats and your metrics that you've moved are so impressive. So for everyone who joined us today, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Please do yourselves a favor, go follow Brandi on LinkedIn. She shares wonderful content regularly, and I know that she would be thrilled to engage with you there. So please go give her a follow. Thank you guys so much for giving us your time today. I know that time is a gift. I appreciate you sharing that with us. It is a holiday week for those of you in the States. So for those of you who are celebrating the 4th, I hope you have a very happy, healthy, and safe 4th of July, and that we will welcome you back next week for our next webinar series. So thank you again so much. Brandi, thank you for sharing your wisdom. If you have any resources that you want to share in addition to the recorded presentation, we'd be happy to make those available to everyone who joined and everyone who registered. So thank you all again so much, and have a great rest of your week.